The 7 nights that changed the world forever. One teenager. One wrong turn. One morning that was supposed to be ceremonial. And within weeks, the world was at war. A divided city stands silent for decades. Then one sentence is spoken on live television. And by midnight, a wall has fallen. A quiet Sunday morning in Hawaii. Clear skies, church bells, and then the sky fills with aircraft. At 8:15 a.m., a city in Japan disappears in light. On a clear September morning, commuters step into elevators and never come back down. A superpower lowers its flag. A nuclear reactor explodes in the dark. These were not gradual shifts. They were moments, sudden and irreversible, when the course of human history changed overnight. Today, we examine 7 events that transform the world in a single day, sometimes in a single hour. 7 turning points that redrew borders, reshaped power, and altered the future of millions. History does not always move slowly. Sometimes it waits, and then it moves. Overnight. Number 1. The assassination that sparked World War I. One bullet to global war, one teenager. One mistake, one wrong turn. June 28, 1914. Sarajevo. The city wakes under a mild summer sky. Church bells echo in the distance. Shopkeepers prepare for business. People gather along narrow streets to watch the motorcade of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Europe at this moment appears stable on the surface. But beneath that calm, tensions have been building for decades. Empires compete for influence. Militaries expand. Nationalist movements simmer in the Balkans. The Austro-Hungarian Empire governs multiple ethnic groups, many of whom long for independence. Still, few believe a single morning could unravel everything. Earlier that day, a bomb is thrown at the Archduke's convoy. It explodes beneath the wrong vehicle. Injuries, confusion, smoke. The Archduke insists on continuing his visit. That decision will matter. Later, the motorcade changes route to visit the wounded in hospital. The driver is unfamiliar with the new path. He makes a wrong turn down a narrow street. He stops to reverse. The engine stalls, and standing just steps away is a 19-year-old nationalist named Gavrilo Princip. He had already believed his chance was lost. Now the Archduke's car sits directly in front of him. Princip steps forward. 2 shots ring out. The Archduke is struck in the neck. His wife Sophie is struck in the abdomen. Within minutes, both are dying. Witnesses later recall the Archduke's final words. Sophie, don't die. Stay alive for the children. But history had already shifted. News spreads rapidly across Europe. Austria-Hungary blames Serbia. Germany promises support. Russia mobilizes to defend Serbia. France aligns with Russia. Britain enters after Germany invades Belgium. Within 5 weeks, Europe is at war. What was assumed to be a regional conflict becomes a global catastrophe. Young men board trains, cheering, confident they will return home quickly. They do not. The war lasts 4 years. Trench warfare stretches across France and Belgium. Poison gas clouds drift over battlefields. Machine guns cut down entire regiments. More than 16 million die. 4 empires collapse. The political instability that follows paves the way for extremist movements, including Nazism. World War II grows from the unresolved wounds of the first. And it began with a stalled car, one teenager, one mistake, one wrong turn. History did not creep forward. It snapped. Number 2. The night the Berlin Wall fell. A divided world reunites overnight. For nearly 3 decades, Berlin was a divided city. Concrete and steel cut through neighborhoods. Families were separated overnight in 1961 when the wall rose. Parents who had stepped out for work could not return home. Friends waved across barriers guarded by armed soldiers. The Berlin Wall was not just architecture, it was ideology made visible. On one side, capitalism aligned with the West. On the other, communism aligned with the Soviet Union. Attempts to escape were dangerous. Some dug tunnels, some hid in vehicles, some climbed and were shot. By the late 1980s, the Soviet Union was weakening. Economic strain, political reform, and public protests were spreading across Eastern Europe. In East Germany, demonstrations grew larger. Citizens demanded freedom of travel. On November 9, 1989, an East German official held a press conference to explain new travel policies. When asked when the rules would take effect, he answered, "Immediately." He was mistaken, but television broadcast the statement live. Within hours, thousands gathered at checkpoints. Guards, confused and lacking clear orders, hesitated. The crowd pressed forward. Chants grew louder. The guards made a choice. They opened the gates. People crossed cautiously at first. Then, in waves, strangers embraced. Some climbed atop the wall itself. They hammered at the concrete. They stood on it, laughing, crying, stunned. For decades, it had symbolized division. Now it symbolized collapse. By morning, Berlin was reunited in spirit. Within 2 years, the Soviet Union itself would dissolve. The Cold War, a global standoff lasting nearly half a century, was ending. Sometimes history changes through war. Sometimes it changes through paperwork. And sometimes through a misstatement at a press conference. Number 3. Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. America forced into World War II, Sunday morning. Calm skies, then bombs. December 7th, 1941. Oahu, Hawaii. The morning begins like any other. The air is warm, the sky is clear. Church services are beginning across the island. Sailors aboard battleships anchored at Pearl Harbor prepare for routine inspections. Some write letters home. Some linger over breakfast. The United States is not yet officially at war. Across the Atlantic and in Asia, World War II rages. Germany occupies much of Europe. Japan expands across the Pacific. But many Americans believe the ocean provides distance, protection, time. Diplomatic negotiations between the United States and Japan have grown tense in recent months. Economic sanctions have strained relations. Intelligence warnings circulate quietly within military leadership, but few expect what comes next. At 7:55 a.m., the first wave of Japanese aircraft appears in the sky. At first, some mistake them for American planes. Then the bombs begin to fall. Explosions rip through battleships anchored in neat rows. The USS Arizona is struck. A massive fireball erupts as its ammunition ignites. More than 1,100 sailors are killed in seconds. Smoke darkens the bright morning sky. Torpedoes slice through calm water. Fires burn across the harbor. Within 2 hours, more than 2,400 Americans are dead. An aircraft lie twisted on airfields. Ships burn or sink. The shock is immediate. The next day, President Franklin D. Roosevelt addresses Congress. Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy, the United States declares war on Japan. Days later, Germany declares war on the United States. America enters World War II fully. Factories convert to wartime production almost overnight. Automobile plants begin building tanks. Typewriter factories begin assembling rifles. Millions enlist. The balance of global power shifts. What had been a European and Asian war becomes a truly global one. A calm Sunday morning became a turning point in world history, and the war would escalate to a new, terrifying height. Number 4. Hiroshima, August 6, 1945. The atomic age begins in seconds. August 6, 1945. Hiroshima, Japan. It is just after 8 a.m. Children walk to school. Streetcars move through the city. Shopkeepers open their doors. Japan has been at war for years. Cities like Tokyo have already endured heavy bombing, but Hiroshima has remained largely untouched. Above the clouds, a B-29 bomber named Enola Gay approaches. Inside the aircraft is a single bomb, codenamed Little Boy. At 8:15 a.m., the bomb is released. It falls silently for 43 seconds. Then, a flash, brighter than the sun. A fireball expands at temperatures hotter than the surface of the sun. Buildings near the center are vaporized. Human shadows are burned into concrete. An estimated 70,000 people die instantly. By the end of the year, the death toll will climb far higher due to burns and radiation sickness. The shock wave flattens miles of the city. Smoke rises into the sky in a towering mushroom cloud. 3 days later, another atomic bomb falls on Nagasaki. On August 15th, Japan announces its surrender. World War II ends. But the world has entered something new. The nuclear age. For the first time in human history, humanity possesses the power to eliminate itself entirely. For decades afterward, the Cold War will unfold under the shadow of nuclear annihilation. Missiles will sit armed in silos. Submarines will patrol oceans. School children will practice duck and cover drills. The balance of power will no longer depend only on armies, but on deterrence. All because of a single morning in August. Number 5. September 11, 2001. The modern world shifts. September 11th, 2001. New York City. The sky is clear. The kind of blue that feels endless. At 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 crashes into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Flames erupt. Smoke pours into the sky. 17 minutes later, United Airlines Flight 175 strikes the South Tower. The world watches live on television. At 9:37 a.m., another plane crashes into the Pentagon. A fourth plane, United 93, crashes in Pennsylvania after passengers attempt to regain control. Nearly 3,000 lives are lost. Office workers, firefighters, police officers, passengers. Within hours, U.S. airspace is closed. Financial markets shut down. Governments convene emergency meetings. Within weeks, the United States launches military operations in Afghanistan. Years later, Iraq becomes another battlefield. Global security changes permanently. Airport security tightens. Surveillance systems expand. Intelligence agencies grow in power and reach. The phrase war on terror enters political language. Entire regions of the Middle East are reshaped by conflict. For a generation, the sense of safety shifts. The 21st century takes a different path. In a single morning. Number 6. The fall of the Soviet Union. 1991. A superpower disappears. For nearly half a century, the world was defined by two rival superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. Their ideological battle shaped global politics, economics, and warfare. Nuclear weapons stood ready on both sides. But by the late 1980s, the Soviet economy was struggling. Reforms introduced by Mikhail Gorbachev, glasnost, and perestroika aim to open and restructure the system. Instead, they exposed deep weaknesses. Republics within the Soviet Union began pushing for independence. Economic hardship intensified. Political authority weakened. On December 25, 1991, Mikhail Gorbachev resigned. That evening, the red Soviet flag was lowered from the Kremlin for the final time. In its place, the Russian tricolor rose. The Soviet Union ceased to exist. 15 independent nations emerged: Ukraine, Belarus, Kazakhstan, the Baltic states. The Cold War ended without a direct superpower war. But new tensions, new borders, and new uncertainties replaced the old order. A superpower vanished, not with bombs, but with a resignation. Number 7. Chernobyl, April 26, 1986. Invisible disaster, lasting consequences. April 26, 1986. Chernobyl nuclear power plant, Soviet Ukraine. Shortly after midnight, engineers conduct a safety test on reactor number 4. The test goes wrong. A sudden power surge, an explosion. The reactor core is exposed. Radioactive material is released into the atmosphere. Firefighters arrive without protective gear. They do not yet understand what they are facing. Radiation spreads silently across the region. Entire towns are evacuated. Pripyat, once a thriving city, becomes abandoned. For days, officials attempt to contain information. But radiation cannot be hidden. It drifts across Europe. Chernobyl becomes a symbol of technological failure and government secrecy. It weakens public trust. Some historians argue it accelerates the eventual collapse of the Soviet Union itself. The disaster is invisible, but its impact is global. History changed not through war, but through radiation carried by the wind. 7 events, 7 nights, 7 moments when the world shifted faster than anyone expected. Each began as an ordinary day. A summer parade, a press conference, a Sunday morning, a quiet city street. And then, something happened. History does not always announce itself. It does not always give warning. Sometimes it waits quietly. Then it moves, suddenly, irreversibly, overnight. And somewhere in the world, right now, another ordinary day is unfolding, until it isn't. If you want to continue exploring the moments that reshaped our world, the nights that altered the course of humanity, subscribe to this channel, because history is not finished, and the next turning point may already be closer than we think.